The chapter that we're about to start, Financial Mathematics, is all about working with money, particularly borrowing money, investing money by putting money in a bank, or purchasing things with money. That's the focus. So for today, we're looking at something called simple interest. Now this is a basic but not a real life application of interest. So in real life, banks don't use this formula or this method that we're learning today, but it's a nice introductory way to start. It gives us a bit of an idea about how interest works if we need to borrow money from the bank, like we're doing in this example here, or if we need to put our own money in the bank, which means invest. So let's start with this example here. Pretend you need to borrow some money for a bank. You want to go on a holiday, and so you take a loan of $3,000. The bank says, sure, here's your $3,000, but they're not quite that generous. They charge you an interest rate, which is this number here. That means if you borrow $3,000, they'll give it to you, but when you pay it back, you'll end up paying them back more than $3,000. And that's because of this special percentage here. Whenever banks talk about an interest rate, they'll say it as a percentage. Then you'll always see these letters PA, per annum. That just means per year. You'll see that everywhere. That doesn't change. But you just need to understand that those two little letters, PA, mean per annum or per year. So the bank has said, here's your $3,000. You can have 4 years to pay it back, but we're going to charge you an interest rate of 3.8%. So that means after 4 years, you'll end up paying back a bit more than $3,000. And that bit more, that's called interest. So what we're doing today is we want to know how much interest the bank is going to charge you. How much extra are you going to pay back according to this little setup that they've given you here? So the first thing that we need to know is the formula to use. So there is a special simple interest formula that you're going to use. What I will ask you to do is copy down this formula here. This is the same one that we will use for any question that talks about simple interest. So make this stand out very clearly on your page, please. I equals PRT over 100. We'll learn about what those letters stand for in just a second, but please make sure this is really clear, because as soon as you see the words simple interest in a question, you go straight to this formula. So today the bank has said we're charging you simple interest, you know to use this formula. What I would like you to do now is see if you can guess, or you might already know what any of those letters stand for. So next to it, I'd like you to write down any of these letters that you know already, or you might be able to guess or infer. So if you want to, you can press pause, try and write down as many as you can, and then we'll go through it together just after. Okay, here is the correct answer for each of the letters. I stands for interest. That means that'll be a dollar amount. So you could put in dollars next to that if you wanted to. That's how much interest the bank will be charging you, and that's what the formula will find out for us. P stands for principal. Now that's just a fancy word for starting amount. So principal is just the amount of the loan, or the amount of money that you invest in the bank at the beginning of your story, the beginning of your journey. R stands for rate, but I'd like you to write it as interest rate, if you can please. And in brackets, just to remind yourself, it's always a percentage. So if you put that percent sign, at least you know that whenever you're looking for R, just look for the percentage in the question. And the last one, T stands for time. Some people call it term, but I want you to call it time. I've underlined in years because that is really, really important. Whenever you're doing these questions, whenever you're using this formula, you need to look at how many years the loan is for, or the investment is for. Sometimes the question might trick you by telling you in months, but you need that number in years. Okay, let's go back to our question. What I would like you to do now is, with the information that you've been given, substitute those numbers into your formula. So you need to decide which of these numbers is the P, or the starting amount, the principal, which one of these numbers is R, the interest rate, and which one of these numbers is time in years. Substitute into your simple interest formula. Go. And it looks like this. One thing to note, when you're writing it in, don't put the percent sign in your formula. I know it's habit and you think that it should be there, but the calculator doesn't need it, okay? It actually doesn't want it there. So if you've written it, just give it a quick scribble out, but your answer look like this. 3,000, that's your starting amount, that's your rate, your interest rate, and it's for 4 years, so that's your time, over 100. Now, put this in your calculator, and then write down what answer it spits out. Your answer will be in money, so make sure you answer in dollars and cents. Go. If you type it in correctly, it will give you an answer of 456. Now, because we're talking about money or interest, that is $456. To make your answer even better, see if you can just put a couple of one word even underneath to give the answer some context. So what is that $456? If you can write it with a bit of context, that's how we answer these questions. Have a go at that. To relate it back to the question, we could have said $456 interest was charged. Or you even just could have said $456 interest. That still would have been good. But at least now it's related back to the question. Let's try another one with the exact same information. This time, you've got some money and you want to put it into the bank. So this time you're not borrowing money from the bank, you are investing money. That means you've got some cash, you've had a few really good birthdays and Christmases and you've been saving up your money, you've started a part-time job and they've been giving you all this money as well. You decide, I can't keep this under my mattress anymore, I need to put it somewhere safe. I'm going to invest this money in a bank. That means I'm going to let the bank hold on to my money for me. So you go to the bank with $5,000 and the bank actually wants you to give you their money, give them your money so that they'll hold it for you. So they pay you interest. So last time, interest was a bad thing because the bank was making you pay extra money on your loan. This time, interest is a good thing. The bank is saying, if you let us hold your $5,000, we will pay you interest at 4.8% per annum if you keep your money with us for 3 years. So banks want your money so they can use it and do things with it. So that's the reward you get by letting them hold your money. They pay you a bit extra interest. So they've said, keep it with us for 3 years, don't touch it, and we'll pay simple interest. Remember today we're talking about a thing called simple interest at that rate. I would like you to do the same formula as before, swap the letters P, R and T for the numbers in these scenarios. Go. Once you've put the numbers in the right spots, it'll look a bit like this. Remember, we don't need the percent sign in our formula. That's all the working out you need to do by hand. Your calculator will do the rest, but you do need to put that in your book to show where the answer came from. Type that in your calculator, answer in dollars and cents. The correct answer is $720 interest. So that means the bank has paid you an extra $720 just for keeping your money in there for 3 years. One final question for this scenario. How much money is now in your bank account? So you need to do one last equation. I want you to write down your working out. So here's the question. How much money is now in your account? And underneath that, I would like you to show the working out to find out how much money is now in your account. You put $5,000 in, they paid you $720 interest. Find the final amount currently in your account. With working out included, we now know we have $5,720 in our account. We put in that much, it earned that much interest, so we now have that much as our final amount. Okay, one more question. Here's our last scenario. You need to borrow some money again. So you've gone back to the bank and you have asked if you can borrow $2,500. You want a loan. They've given you this loan of $2,500, but they've said this time the interest rate will be 4.2% per annum and the loan goes for 18 months. So that means you've got your money, you've got your $2,500, you've got 18 months to pay it back, but they're going to charge you an interest rate. So you will end up paying back more than you borrowed. But before we do that, there is something wrong with this question. Look at the T, the time. It's in months. We don't want this in months. We need to be working in years to be solving these questions. We can only use that special formula if we know what this is in years. So here's a rule. I want you to write this down somewhere because it works every single time. If this is written in months, divide this number by 12 and that turns it into years. So whenever you see it say, like this one, 18 months, divide that number by 12 and that turns it into years. So make this note somewhere, make it stand out so that whenever this appears, you can look back to this page in your notes and you remember how to convert it into the right format. So let's do it for this one. 18 divided by 12, that equals 1.5. So that means this is for 1.5 years. And if you think about it, it makes sense because 18 months is 1.5 years. So that's how we turn it into years. 18 divided by 12 turns into years. Okay, here are your two questions. How much interest did you pay? All together at the end, use your formula to help you. And then what is the total amount to be paid back to the bank? Your formula can get you straight to one of the answers, but like you did last time, there's an extra step to work out the total amount. Go for it. So once you put the numbers into your formula, it should look like this. And here are our two questions that we need to answer. How much interest were you charged? And what's the total amount that you have to pay back? So once you've typed it in, that answer, decide which one of these two questions that's going to give you the answer to, and then decide which or what you need to do to find the answer to the other question. If you haven't already done that, do that now. All right, that formula will tell you how much interest you've been charged. That's what the I stands for. Remember, that formula tells you how much interest you've been charged. So that gives you that answer there. Now you have to work out how much you need to pay back. So think about this carefully. The bank gave you that much money, $2,500, and then they've charged you interest that you need to pay back as well. So think about what you need to do to find out this number here and write it down. Your final amount that you need to pay back to the bank is $2,657.50. You need to add those two amounts together. They gave you that much and charge you that much interest. Now it's not a minus. If you put a minus there, that means this would be lower than the amount that you borrowed from the bank. That means you've said the bank gave you a discount on how much you had to pay them back. Banks aren't that generous. They charge you interest. Interest is always added on to the original amount. All right, you can now start the questions.